Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our live events brand builder. My name is Jay Fenster. I'm the corporate marketing manager at OUTFRONT, and I will be moderating today's event. Here, we'll share the secrets of the most successful live events businesses. You'll learn how they utilize out-of-home advertising to raise awareness, drive ticket sales, and build relationships, not only with their audiences, but with performers as well. Our goal for today is for you to come away feeling inspired to leverage out-of-home for your own goals. Because at OUTFRONT, it's our mission to help people, places, and business grow stronger. We've assembled an all-star panel for today's discussion. OUTFRONT Regional Marketing Manager Ashton will address how and why out-of-home works for live event businesses. And Studios Art Director Heidi Rodinsky will share inspiring examples of the category's best ad creative. Then we'll conduct an advertiser roundtable with 3 of our showcase clients. Joining us today are Justin Cohn, Marketing Director at Luckman Performing Arts Center in Los Angeles, Jany Marti, Director of Marketing at Miami-based concert promoter and marketing agency Loud and Live, and David Wilcox, Artistic Director of the Long Beach Ballet. I want to thank each of them for taking the time to share their expertise, and I want to thank all of you as well. If you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to ask using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will answer as many as we have time for at the conclusion of our advertiser roundtable. And with that, I will hand it off to Ashton.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashton, and I am a regional marketing manager in the South region. Just so you know, in relation to the picture in the previous slide, you're not being catfished. I just went feral during the pandemic. But today we're going to cover 5 main areas during our discussion. First, we'll explore consumer behavior and what's its evolution means for brands like yours. Next, we'll talk about the how and why out-of-home drives results for the live events industry. Next, we'll talk about how, after that, in one of our favorite parts of the presentation, we'll showcase some of the most effective and impactful creative examples from brands like yours, and a little different structure this time, which we're super excited about. We'll have a roundtable discussion with our group of panelists, and finally, we'll open the floor to questions from our audience. So, reaching your audience. So the top line for 2022 is that consumers are eager to return to normalcy. So we're going out and doing things once again, attending live concerts, enjoying Broadway shows, and travel, both domestic and international, are just a few ways of the consumers are making up for lost time. The experience economy is alive and well. And out-of-home pervades the customer journey, even when our eyes are on the road. Total miles driven by Americans are up 8% year over year to a record high, and over 80% of consumers say they are noticing out-of-home on highways and local roads. Now, we'll shift focus and explore some of the macro trends shaping your industry right now. So there's plenty of data that proves the ROI of live events. For instance, more than 3 in 4 millennials would choose to spend money on a desirable experience or event over buying something desirable, according to recent data from Eventbrite. And coincidentally, millennials between the age of 23 and 38 seem to be the age group that travels the most, with 40% preferring to travel with friends. Trade shows and events are back, and honestly, they're better than ever. The pandemic may have forced the events industry to pause and pivot, but remarkable change and innovation came along with that. For instance, 60% of leadership believe that events are the most critical marketing channel for achieving business goals. Not surprising, in fact, 46% of companies plan to increase their trade show budgets in 2022, with a projected growth of $18.2 billion. Additionally, 56% of event planners are optimistic about the future of the industry, which is evident this past April with over 50,000 in attendance at the NAB show in Las Vegas. Again, if you hear nothing more from us today, out-of-home drives awareness. The real-world connection between performer and audience makes out-of-home's real-world presence a perfect fit to communicate the excitement of concerts, sports events, music festivals, and so on. As an example, 44% discover concerts in cities of 1 million plus after OOH ad exposure, with 69% of awareness created for public events. More people out means more eyes on, with 41% noticing out-of-home ads more than the pre-pandemic. Now, thinking out of the box is critical. It can be achieved through some of our dynamic digital capabilities, which allow out-of-home to empower venues and promoters with the ability to communicate last-minute availability, while QR codes enable ticket purchase or registration on the fly, and really just have fun with it. With executions like tease and reveal campaigns, which can be super effective and often have the chance to go viral, it truly is exciting what we can and will build together. So let's move on into how and why out of home gets results. So while the lines between our digital, virtual, and physical lives continue to blur, we've continued to see digital burnout and fatigue rise. Majority, which is about 63% of us, are feeling the effects of digital burnout. And even more of us, 75%, are skipping ads altogether, making it harder for advertisers to break through digitally. On top of that, over a third of consumers are actively trying to decrease their screen time. It's becoming clear that audiences are ready to spend less time in front of screens and more time engaging in real experiences outside the home. And out of home is seeing heightened awareness, a rise in trust, and increased ability to drive action. 70% of consumers have an increased awareness and appreciation for out of home versus pre-pandemic. 58% of consumers consider OOH to be the most trustworthy medium, and 66% take some form of mobile action after seeing out of home. So we are the most visible media platform in the US, reaching about 75% of the population weekly, with a powerful platform of 651,000 plus assets across the country. Out of home is woven into the fabric of our communities. It's always on and has the power to steer public discourse with immense cultural impact. And so our mission is to deliver impactful and engaging interactions with audiences as they live their lives. This is achieved through what we call TLC, utilizing sophisticated technology to increase consumer engagement, to targeting audiences where they are, have been, and will be, and using big, bold, and beautiful creative to drive your message. I'll now pass it over to the very talented Heidi to walk through best-in-class industry creative.
Thanks, Ashton. Hi, everyone. My name is Heidi Rodinsky, and I'm an art director in the West region. Today, I'll be sharing with you some examples of how out-of-home is a great advertising medium for live events. Our in-house creative team at OUTFRONT is called OUTFRONT Studios. We're an award-winning in-house creative agency working exclusively with OUTFRONT clients. We are a team of 50 creatives nationwide, and together we do everything from consulting to ideation to execution. Our clients know their business better than anyone else, and we know out of home, so our job is to marry the two to elevate our clients and produce the most successful campaign. With that being said, we believe that out of home has the ability to scream to thousands, but also whisper to one. So why not out of home? With all the changes that 2020 brought and the desire for people to be able to attend live events once again, out of home is the perfect medium to blend multi-channel advertising and reach audiences across your city. Whether driving to work, waiting for the bus, or simply scrolling through your favorite website from your own couch, an out of home campaign can drive results. Another great thing about out of home is the potential for scalability. Out of home forces you to design a short message that captures your audience's attention in 7 seconds or less. Because of that, out of home can easily scale into other mediums. It's easier to scale a billboard into a TV commercial, but not so easy to scale that TV commercial into a billboard. Take our VP of Creative, Eddie Hurdy's words for it. 100% of boring ads don't matter. So why not drive interest with your campaign and start with out of home? The possibilities are endless. The Stage in Nashville, Tennessee is a bar located on Lower Broadway and is known for its live music and events featuring many artists as well as country music legends. An art director from our studio's team worked with the stage to create an eye-catching campaign with props and LED lights that made many news and social media headlines. They essentially made it an event to go see the billboard that was advertising live events. Talk about spot on. Another example that made a huge splash was using more traditional sequential billboards in a simple message. Each year, thousands of people flock to Coachella. These were 4 boards, one after the other, on the road leading away from Coachella. Not only did these boards promote attending Coachella, but were duly promoting Travis Scott's new album and teasing a surprise performance. Through these billboards, Cactus Jack Records gave us simplicity, minimal visual elements, and contrasting color, all packed with meaning and advertising for not only his record label and Travis Scott, but also Coachella. All that made for an excellent out-of-home campaign that was seen not only on the roads, but in many social media posts. And finally, the Long Beach Ballet is an excellent example of how we partner with our clients to drive results via creative campaigns. Our studios team used a consultative strategy in working with the client to create an out-of-home campaign that encompassed many billboards, web banners, bus tails, and shelters, as well as utilized our social media influencers to promote the Nutcracker, and they saw huge results. I'm going to pass the mic back to Jay for a discussion with a few of our clients to speak on their experience with OUTFRONT.
All right. Thank you, Heidi. So now is the part that we've all been waiting for, our advertiser roundtable. So I'm going to start off with a question for Jany. You don't just use out of home to advertise your own events as a concert promoter. You also evangelize it to your agency clients, such as Walmart. Why is out of home such a significant part of your strategy?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people associate Latin Live with all of our concerts and events, but we are actually also a full service marketing agency for several well-established brands. We are actually the agency of record for Walmart Hispanic, and as such, we've been able to work on a few different out-of-home campaigns with OUTFRONT. I have a great example to show you, which is the one that's on the screen right now. In 2021, Walmart launched a new initiative called the Walmart Tech Services. This service was very similar to what a lot of us know as the Geek Squad at Best Buy. So it was like 24/7 tech support, device repairs, and such. And, we knew that it was essential to create that initial connection with consumers first and foremost, especially with a product like this that they just weren't familiar with. So our team created an awareness campaign with the goal being not just education, but also about the service, but also ultimately, we were hoping for conversion. So we used billboards across 7 different cities, including Dallas, Cleveland, Vegas, and a few other cities. We targeted nearby Walmart stores that were participating in the launch. And then we also leveraged what we knew about the routes that people took on their commute to and from work. And then we also leveraged what we knew about other nearby competitive locations, such as, Best Buy. So through this campaign alone, we were able to generate over 18 million impressions across all the markets. So this data really is not only important for us to be able to measure our reach, the reach of the campaign, but also it's really essential for the client to know. Of course, we partnered or we paired this with also our own digital marketing efforts on our end. But overall, we really saw a rise in consumers that were visiting the store to use the service. So really from an agency standpoint, it's really important to be able to bring these new and exciting initiatives to the forefront of people's minds. Otherwise, they may not know that it's there. So the awareness component is really just essential.
Great. Next question is for Justin. Luckman Performing Arts Center used out of home to introduce itself to new audiences, building the institution's brand in addition to promoting its performance. Tell us how.
Well, first of all, we are a smaller institution. We are part of Cal State LA. And what the idea was coming out of the pandemic was to let the surrounding communities know that we are open and we are up. So what I wanted to do was implement 2 billboards on the 10 freeway, one facing east and one facing west. That way you have people going to and home from work in their commutes to see that and know that the location is close and that it's easy to stop by, take a step out, and let the surrounding community knows that we are still here and that we're up and we're open. Moreover, I wanted to reach a more broad audience. On a macro level of marketing, how do we let all of Los Angeles know who we are, expand our brand, and our vitality of it? So I worked with Tiffany and Kari on creating bus ads on sides and tails, because as we know, Los Angeles is a very traffic and driver heavy city. So I'm thinking, okay, we see buses, people who are walking commuters, people who are driving commuters, and tourists are going to be able to see this. The Dash is a great system because it goes through all of Los Angeles. And I was able to see things from my neighborhood to Hollywood, to the Fairfax district, to downtown LA. And this was able to really showcase who we are and what we're trying to do. We wanted to mimic something that was similar to our competitors, like the Broad or the Broad Stage or CAP UCLA, to let them know what we're servicing, who we're servicing, and what we have to offer. I went ahead and I did this bus campaign with our spring season as well, letting people know who we are, where we are, and trying to expand that reach in the best, most accessible way.
Great. Okay, so our next question is for David. Tell us how your media mix has evolved over the course of your relationship with OUTFRONT.
Well, we've been performing a big grand scale production of the Nutcracker at the Long Beach Terrace Theater at the Long Beach Convention Center for 40 years. And advertising has changed so dramatically over all of that time. I've been in charge of it mostly myself. So I can't even describe how different it was 40 years ago, because most people watching probably weren't even alive then. But I started to experiment with a little bit of outdoor stuff with you guys about 7 or 8 or 9 years ago. And then I thought, nah, I'm just going to go back to the traditional. And so I was doing the traditional for a while, with like 200,000 mailers. We did a big radio campaign. We're talking about 3 years ago with the Nutcracker. We weren't able to do it a couple of years after that because of the pandemic. And I just saw our ticket sales were declining. Our ticket sales were going down every year. And I was like, what's going on? Why are our ticket sales going down? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to call this girl Tiffany at OUTFRONT or OUTFRONT. And I remember her being nice. And I'm going to call her. And I got her on the phone and I said, hey, Tiffany, our ticket sales are going down. She goes, well, what are you doing? And I told her what we were doing. And she said, well, I'm not surprised they're going down because you're doing the same old stuff that's not working anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. So on that first phone conversation, I said, okay, tell you what. I spend this much money for the past 2 or 3 years on advertising. A lot of that was going to radio and mailers. What if I said, I'm going to give you this much because we're scaling down number of performances because of the pandemic and everything, but I'm going to cut my advertising budget back. And if I gave you all that money, what would you do with it? Well, she said, we only really do outdoor. I said, I know, but I trust you. If I gave you this amount of money and you would say, I would use this much in outdoor and I would use this much at none, I want you to come up with a new idea for me because I've been doing this for 39 years now and it's not working now. It's going downhill. And so I just threw it in her lap and she got on the phone with creative people there, with you guys. And we had a Zoom call and I told them what I'm looking for. And he came back a few days later with this amazing campaign, which I just loved right away. Very different to anything we'd ever done before, but I knew, I said, I don't know, I can't see the forest for the trees because I'm in the middle of this thing. I need to appeal to a broad audience. And Nutcracker does that, luckily. Nutcracker appeals to a very broad audience. And so you guys came up with this brilliant, this thing where, as you see on the screen, came up with these billboards that just didn't even say Long Beach Ballet, didn't even say Nutcracker, didn't even say Christmas, just said the best is coming back to Long Beach. And through the digital ads, the billboards, buses, we didn't do any radio. We didn't do any flyers. We did a couple of other little things just to announce it in the newspaper, things like that. But basically, I gave it all to you guys, and the response was amazing. Even though the pandemic was still coming back, and you had to be vaccinated to go in the theater, our ticket sales were over what they had been the last time when I'd spent 50% more money, and our ticket sales had been going down. So I was very excited about the concept. I'm really old school, and I still think of flyers and radio and stuff like that as the way to go. But you guys proved that is not. And I was excited about it. It felt good to me to be able to just hand it off and not have to do all the work myself and all the creative and everything like that. I love the idea that you guys came up with. I love the visuals of the way you put the ads together. You did everything. We didn't do anything. We just handed you money. And I was very, very pleased with the results.
Great, that's what we love to hear. Jany, next question's for you. The shows that you promote have a specific audience in mind. How do you use hyper-local targeting to ensure that you reach them?
Yeah, so something that we always consider, of course, is location, right? We often use the venue location when we're promoting a concert, for example. That's a key reference point. So we know that people are more likely to consider the event if they're exposed to the out-of-home ad. So we choose boards and bus shelters that are, in close proximity to the venue. Understandably, we know a large portion of the concert goers are going to be very local to the area. So we rely on this to bring awareness to the event when people are doing their everyday commutes to and from work. But really another factor that we consider is obviously who our target demographic is and where they tend to congregate. In the Hispanic market, there tends to be a lot of crossover between artists in terms of, if somebody likes X artist, then they're very likely to like another artist that has a very similar sound. But, we really can't use like this one size fits all formula. Every artist is very different. So for example, when you have an artist like Ricardo Montaner, who happens to be Venezuelan, it makes a lot of sense to hyper target areas where there is a high population of Venezuelans, such as here in Doral, where, we're located. So even if it's not necessarily, within 20 miles of the venue, we know that it's a missed opportunity if we don't have presence there, because there tends to be a lot of people that are going to be fans. So, when we're armed with this knowledge, we know where our marketing dollars will be more efficient. So we're not just shooting in the dark. I think that that's a misconception maybe that some people have about out of home, that you're just placing billboards, but really there is a method to the madness, and it's really essential. And you guys do such a great job with all of the data that you have. Really being able to pinpoint, where does it make sense to have, an out-of-home ad? And once you have that information and you marry that with digital, whether it's, mobile retargeting or, other forms of retargeting, then, that's really where we get the sweet sauce, because then that person is not only seeing the ad, but then they're getting hit with another ad. So that's how you keep the event at the top of the person's mind when you have that frequency. So, for us, we've been able to really get pretty hyper local with you guys. And it's been really essential for our success.
Excellent. Justin, how do digital impressions play into your out-of-home strategy?
Well, when I look at digital impressions, I think of it from a consumer standpoint and how often I buy things on my phone, or how often I'm driven to things via digital impressions, whether it be a concert, an exhibition, or hey, they're just trying to sell me a face cream. I think of that because we spend most of our time on our phones, and we can see an actual increase in ticket sales through digital impressions, whether it be from, local and geo-targeting digital impressions, or things like Jany said, similar things in buys or artist interests. You can really see how the sales will increase, and you can kind of reach a customer on more of a personable or micro marketing level. Obviously we have a larger reach, but then when it comes down to digital impressions, it's something in our hands. It's something that we're looking at. And whether or not the consumer is actually going to buy something, you're planting a seed in their head and say, oh, I saw a Buica ad on my phone. Where did I see that? And whether or not they clicked on that ad, they might have had that impression, okay, maybe I should go do a search for it. And then it makes it more personal for them because it's something they want to do. And I noticed that through digital impressions, we're seeing a huge increase over the weekend sales. We're seeing, 10% increase, 25% increase in ticket sales. And giving most of our marketing dollars to OUTFRONT has been such an increase in audience engagement with not just other patrons, but people who work for the Luckman as well. It gives us a chance to talk to them about what's working, what they want to see, and how we can adapt to that.
Great. David, you touched on this a little bit with your last answer, but tell us a little bit more about your experience collaborating with studios to develop the creative for your Nutcracker campaign.
Well, I was so happy to have a fresh view, because we had already been creating our artistic stuff all in-house, and to be able to hand that off, I had so much trust in, basically it was because of my relationship with Tiffany that I had so much trust. I just believed her when she talked. And I said, I'm going to trust you. And then when she came on with the creative guy and he came up with these ideas of how he wanted to present it, I loved it. It was fresh and it was new. It was different. The feedback that I got from everybody around here, because we have 500 families here at the Long Beach Ballet, and I got more feedback than I've ever gotten before. People saying like, "Oh my God, I saw the buses. Oh my God, I saw the billboards. Oh my God, I saw it on social influence. Oh my God, I'm seeing this everywhere." Everybody was saying that they were seeing it everywhere, which is why our ticket sales went up, despite the fact that I didn't spend a huge amount of money on radio and I didn't spend a huge amount of money on mailers. Pretty much I have no criticism, and I'm ready to do it again this year with our Nutcracker coming up. Basically, just said, here's a bunch of money and do what you need to do, because I trust your creative implicitly.
That's what we love to hear. Jany, besides hyping up your shows, Out of Home also serves an important role in the relationship between promoter and performer. Why does Out of Home matter to the artist that you book?
Yeah, so when we have one of our artists arrive to a city to perform, we really love to incorporate out of home near the venue. It doesn't even matter if the show is sold out, which, a lot of times it is, which is great. But from an artist's perspective, there's something so visually impressive about seeing their name and face displayed on a huge billboard, especially when it's located in a major city like, here in downtown Miami or Times Square, Rodeo Drive. It really creates this feeling that they've arrived. They see our boards, they see the bus shelters, and to David's point, they think, wow, I'm everywhere, which we know that they're not, but, they think that they feel that way. And, here at Latin Live, that's something that we take a lot of pride in. We value going that extra mile for our artists. We want that type of exposure because it lets them know that we are. This is why we still choose to do out of home, even when the goal is no longer to sell a ticket. We want them to just feel like, this relationship goes beyond a dollar amount. And this is something that we want to foster with them. So it's something key. We love having them displayed, and they really love seeing themselves. So
I'm sure they do. Artists are human too.
yeah.
David, Justin, one tactic that Luckman relied on to increase its exposure was the use of a digital rotary program. Walk us through how that worked and why you chose it.
Oh, so one thing that I loved about this digital rotary was that we could have multiple creatives and multiple billboards at once. And when you're working with a smaller budget and you want to have an expansive reach, this just seemed, like a no-brainer. Tiffany and Kari really helps me with choosing, what would be most successful for our dollar amount. And when you have multiple billboards across Los Angeles on large freeways, and you can have multiple creatives, you can actually see the success. So on a macro level of marketing, you're able to really expand your brand, expand the artists, and have them seen throughout this large area. And like Jany said, the artists want to see themselves in different places. And instead of having one static billboard where I'm not sure if it's going to service that certain community the best, I'm able to have a more expansive reach. And, when one show is done, I can put more focus on the other show. So if you notice on this chart, I have a Buica, which on April 3rd, I implemented, I want all of our digital billboards to be Buica. And we saw an immediate increase in ticket sales. And it would increase by, an average of 10% a day based on these digital billboards displays. So I could see this huge success of these digital billboards and having them on rotation. So once Buica's show is over, then I could still focus on Leela Downs. And it was a great way to implement changing creative to be able to focus on different performances while still being able to have a large reach.
Great. David, speaking of reach, you used influencers to promote the Nutcracker. Tell us a little bit about that engagement.
I didn't do it. You did it. No, you came up with this whole campaign for us. Influencers, I'd never heard of the term before. When I was talking to Tiffany about this, I didn't know what it was. My wife did, because she spent a lot of time on her cell phone. And of course, all of our dancers here, they knew what influencers were. So I said, yeah, go for it. Let's do it. And so it was very interesting. They targeted areas around the Los Angeles area with the people, influencers who had a big following, and they talked up the Nutcracker. None of them had ever seen it before, but they all said that they were gonna come see it, and they would take pictures of themselves. They got a picture of one next to a bus shelter, and they talked it up, and they came to it, and they talked about it some more. And I don't have the data on that, whether or not that made a difference or not. I mean, you might have the data on that. I'm not a big data person. I'm very, 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 very right brain. I just see like big pictures of things in my mind. And that's why I basically went to you guys and said, I need a new big picture to do it. I wasn't able to come up with the details.
Okay. So that just about brings us to time. We do want to open the floor up for some questions and answers from our audience. If you have some questions that you would enjoy having answered, feel free to make use of the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And feel free to ask any of our panelists, whether they are our guest advertisers or our OUTFRONT subject matter experts. And the first question that we have, I will pose this one to each of our panelists. How did you know that your out-of-home campaign was successful? Jany, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think my answer will probably mirror some of the other answers. Ultimately, every campaign, even if the initial goal is to drive awareness, should still drive, some kind of action. So whether that's consideration or conversion, that really depends. But metrics like impressions on our digital boards, those things are really useful, engaging reach. But at the end of the day, for us, Ladder Live, we are promoting an event, and the real indicator of success is how many tickets we've sold, right? So we keep a very close eye on that. We review ticket reports, on a daily basis. And this really allows us to make, educated assessments on whether or not the out-of-home campaigns are effective. We, very similarly to what Justin had just mentioned, we also keep track of, okay, this is when the campaign started. So let's take a look at how things are tickets are moving, and if we see an increase in sales, which we typically do. So although it can be a little difficult to measure attribution, given you have multiple marketing efforts happening at the same time, but it gives us like a pretty good idea of how our campaign is performing and if we need to make any adjustments.
Okay. Justin, what about you? How did you know that your campaign was successful?
Well, obviously, like Jany said, ticket sales are an indicator, and all of our shows for our spring, our back to live performances, Ballet Folklorico, Buica, and Lila Downs. I think the biggest indicator was we had sold out shows every single night. And so we knew that something was working, and OUTFRONT was a new marketing tactic that I used this season. And I could tell that it was something that had a wide reach, that kind of established us as a destination arts location within Los Angeles. But also our Andy Warhol exhibition is a non-revenue generating part of the Luckman. So what we did was we measured, audience attendance or, patron attendance. And we had, our gallery is not large, but we had, I think the final count was, we extended the exhibition to the end of April, and it was supposed to end in February. And we had about 12,322 people in attendance, which is a pretty large number for us, for our small gallery, and for the location that we are. And that's regular patron attendance. That doesn't include, university attendance and, visiting schools. And talking to the customers, the patrons, about how they found out, most people were excited because they saw a billboard or a bus ad. And it was easy for our gallery attendants to have a conversation with, with people who are visiting about what the Luckman is, how they saw us, how they found us, and, what more we have to offer.
Great. David, same question. How did you know that your campaign was successful?
Well, question answered. I mean, budget way down, ticket sales way up. Everybody I knew was talking about the fact that they'd seen this stuff all over the place. So it was no brainer.
Great. So this next question, Jany, I think this one's right in your wheelhouse. What is the sweet spot timing that you see peak ticket sales happening on an out-of-home campaign?
So for us, actually, typically it's at the on sale period. So right when the tickets go on sale, that is key. We always want to make sure we have presence on out of home. That is also typically when we get, there are other marketing efforts happening at the same time, but we make sure to, run about, 4 to 8 week campaign right at the beginning. And then for us, right at the end as well, not just to serve as a reminder, hey, this is happening, because like we mentioned, out of home really is an awareness tool. People don't know what they don't know, right? If you don't know that Brigada Arjona is coming to your city, then you don't know that you need to buy a ticket. So having that presence at the beginning and then at the end, usually we do about the last 4 weeks right before the concert. That is really our sweet spot. And not only, like I mentioned earlier, not only does that serve for ticket sales, but also from the artist's perspective, arriving to the city, seeing the billboard, it's just all in all, a great deal. So.
Okay, excellent. This next question, this one's for David. Like my team tend to be resistant to more exciting but subversive ads in the first place. How did you trace that success back to the billboard without including your name in the example? And did you have any difficulty getting your other stakeholders on board?
You mean the fact that you came up with a whole new approach?
Yeah, I mean, how were you able to get everybody else on board? And how did you track the success back to the teaser campaign?
Well, having always done it ourselves, mostly me coming up with what I wanted to do, because again, I've been doing this for 40 years now. It was really, I was the one who needed to be influenced. I mean, I have other people here, I have board members and I have council people and volunteers and administrative personnel, things like that. But when I was very excited, when I first saw the new ideas that you guys came up with about how to approach this, the teaser, I loved the teaser. I'd heard about these teaser campaigns in the past, where you put a billboard up saying, eliminate humbugs. And you do that for like 2 weeks. And then you add to it, go to see the Nutcracker, things like that. But we had never done it. I'd heard about it, but I always thought it would be too expensive to do something like that, But you guys were able to do it because of the digital, because of the billboards that were digital and would rotate, and you were able to go through that series of just saying the best is back. Like the best. What is the best? Everybody talks about it, and what do you like asking questions about it? They can't wait to see what it is. So that's a great idea for advertising. Everybody here was very excited about the whole new plan. There was no hesitation at all.
Okay, Heidi, this next one is for you. Do you follow trends when creating the artwork for clients such as this? If so, does this affect your branding style?
I would say we do follow trends, but we take a more consultative approach that if that trend makes sense for the client, for whoever it is, then we might utilize something like that. But if it doesn't make sense for your company and for your brand, we are more in the business of expressing and creating for your brand and speaking to what you want it to say and what the company, the whole brand of the company is, versus like, oh, this is what everyone else is doing, let's do that, even though it doesn't make sense because we're a plumbing company or whatever. So it's kind of, we are aware, but also we cater more toward the client and what they're trying to say. And maybe that trend makes sense and maybe it doesn't. So.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Gonna send this one Justin's way. What advice would you give to a first-time out-of-home advertiser?
listen to OUTFRONT. they have the resources, they have the knowledge, and you know, moreover, I think going with your gut and really trying to listen to the community and what you're trying to sell. I think it's, don't be scared with this thing that might seem so big and expensive, because what your return is going to be is a lot more than what you're investing in.
Okay. Jany, any thoughts on this one?
No, I'm piggybacking off of what Justin said. I think that's great. My advice is very similar. It's to reach out to OUTFRONT for data, because you guys have a wealth of knowledge at your disposal. I work with Teresa, our rep, a lot. She's awesome. She's probably like one of my favorite people. And she, you know, I just give her, hey, you know, this is my goal. This is who I'm trying to reach. This is where this event is. And, you know, she's able to go and compile all of this data that just really helps us figure out, okay, well, where do we want to be? How do we geographically find these people that we're trying to reach? And then, you know, depending on what our goals are for the campaign, you know, we're really able to work together to create something that is really efficient and that really works. So my advice would be, you know, working with a company like yours that is, you know, does this so well, is to reach out and let you guys, you know, take the wheel as far as the data goes, because you have so much information, and, you know, working together, we can really build something great.
David, what about you? Any advice for a first-time advertiser?
I agree with them. Ditto.
Okay. Well, that is about all the time that we have for today. I want to thank each of our panelists for joining us, and I want to thank each and every one of you in our audience today. We couldn't do this without you, and we're really honored to have you join us today. This recording for our brand builder will be made available on the OUTFRONT X Content Hub at outfront.com. In the next couple of days, we will send you an email with the link. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.